Hello everyone and thank you for stopping by. Astaroth49 is sorry about the gap in the release date of this episode. Things have not been going well on this end. Still, we hope you enjoy this episode. Brutal-Fairytales. Stray Dogs, Redemption Part 9. Pest Control. Inside the bar, they saw that it was undergoing heavy renovations. The smell of wet paint, sweating, and drywall permeated the air. If nothing else, it definitely smelled like a construction site. Several large plastic sheets covered the linoleum flooring. Several men were painting the walls eggshell white. Several more were working on installing new light fixtures around the bar. A few of the men were working on repairing a broken phone booth in the far corner of the bar. Another few strong men were busy moving around heavy objects such as a jukebox. It seemed like this place had a bad bar fight breakout judging from what was being repaired and replaced. It looked like this place was not ready to be open for some time. It looked like it would be at least another month before this place was good to go. So, Astaroth started to wonder if the work was being halted because of the rats. Or was this work being done because of the rats? However, Astaroth himself was not a construction worker. What would he know about any of this? For all he knew, this could be their last day and these men were going to be done before the sunset. The workers, however, did not seem to mind as the two armed boys just strode right into the place. It was a bit disconcerting for them, however, they were not paid enough to care. Whatever those boys were here for was their business, they surely were not here to help them fix up the place. Alastair walked up to the young woman behind the bar. She was a young adult barely older than Astaroth's mother. She had short blonde hair, baby blue eyes and was wearing a finely made purple dress with flowers embroidered on it. She was a doll, and she knew it. At least the workers around her enjoyed her presence. However, Astaroth could not shake the feeling that he had seen her somewhere before. It was something about her face, it was vaguely familiar to him. He was sure that he had never met this lady before today. However, he could not shake this feeling that he had seen her somewhere. Astaroth was good at remembering people's faces. Trying to remember their names, however, was a completely different task for him. Still, for now, he figured he should be quiet and just see what happens. Alastair was the one who brought this job to his attention, not the other way around. Maybe it would be best for him if he just let Alastair do all the talking. As she noticed the three of them coming towards her, she quickly snapped at them. "What the hell? Didn't you little brats not see the signs? No one under 16, no guns, and no goddamn dogs allowed. Now get the fuck out. And before you ask, no, you can't use the bathroom." The woman shouted violently at them. She definitely had the body of an angel, but she had the temperament of a demon. She would not exactly be winning any Miss Personality awards anytime soon with that behavior. However, she has probably been spending the last few days surrounded by men trying to play grab ass with her. "Well, fuck you too then, lady," Astaroth snapped as he turned around to leave. He was not going to talk right up till she cursed them out. Alastair quickly grabbed Astaroth's arm, stopping him. "We're here about the job you posted," Alastair quickly explained. "What job? I don't know what you're talking about," the woman stated in shock, looking around hoping no one heard that. "The giant fucking plague rats, lady," Astaroth shouted at the top of his lungs. However, none of the workers so much as stopped what they were doing. Maybe they did not hear him, or maybe they just simply did not care. All they wanted was to finish their job and go home. "You're gonna shut the fuck up now, you little shit. Or I'm gonna backhand you so goddamn hard your own mother is not going to be able to recognize you when I'm done," the woman stated, infuriated with him. "So, This is the right place. Astaroth stated coldly. Look, just tell us where to go so we can finish this job already. Alastair said, trying to calm everyone down. Okay, fuck it, right this way. I do not have the time or patience to deal with this right now, and I hope especially you die, you little shit. The woman said, looking at Astaroth before letting them behind the bar. She led them around the back to the door that led to the basement. She quickly opened the door for them. Right down there. Look boys, at the base of the stairs, there is a table with some random junk on it. It's all things that my customers gave me to try to pay off their debts. Help yourselves to anything useful. She said, pointing down the stairs. Thank you. Alastair said before he started walking down the stairs. Astaroth looked at the woman and nodded his head before he and Rook descended the stairs. They could not shake the feeling that she was not telling them the whole story. They knew she was not, but it was too late for that now. There was simply nothing they could do but see this mission through until the end. At the base of the stairs, Astaroth and Rook saw Alastair shifting through the miscellaneous things on the table. He looked like a child on his birthday going through his new toys. Astaroth just let out a deep guttural growl as he rolled his eyes at him. They did not have time for this. The sooner they killed these giant rats, the sooner they could get paid, and then the sooner they could get out of here. What part of that did he not understand? Then a terrible thought entered his mind. If this stuff was already down here, then was something worse than the dread rats down here? Astaroth quickly looked back up the stairs at the door. He could not shake this feeling that something was wrong. It was a guttural feeling, but it had helped to keep them alive for so long. Now it was telling him something was not right here. They needed to leave, and they needed to leave right now. Still, it was too late to back down now. The only way left for them to go was forward. Hey, check this stuff out, man. Oh boy, this is awesome. Alastair said, holding a trench knife. She said, take what's useful. If she decreases the pay because you took all this shit, then I will feed you your teeth. Astaroth stated, looking over the table as he lit another cigarette. All the items were old military surplus items. They were old but well made. They could be found at any surplus store or huntsman's armory stores. Alastair took the trench knife, a military machete, a military-grade harness, a lower military-grade flak vest, and hardened plastic covers for his forearms, legs, and shoulders. It looked like a grade lower than the city watchman's body armor. It could at least stop a shotgun at point-blank range, or low-caliber rifle rounds. This would keep them safe, however, it would not stop the impact of the blast. They would survive the gunshot, but it would hurt like hell. How do I look? Alastair asked as he quickly put on the armor and added the weapons to his gear. He used some of the braided power cord on the table to wrap around the lever of his rifle. Like a militarized hillbilly reject or an underdressed Minuteman. Astaroth answered, looking over the table. You are just jealous because the Minutemen are awesome, and everyone knows it. Alastair stated as he tied the power cord tight on the lever. Whatever, hillbilly. Astaroth said as he picked up a one-handed trench hammer and examined it closely. Astaroth felt the rough forged metal clearly. This was well made, but was clearly made in a rush for the war. Its head was made for devastating blows with an 8-inch spike on the other side. Its langets ran the length of its curved hardened white oak rod. Then pinned with dull brass rivets. Then wrapped with dull brass metal bands for extra support. It had old black leather wrapped around the handle for the grip. A counterweighted pommel sat at the end of it to balance out the hammer. It was made for quick, powerful blows even with one hand. Even in tight quarters, this weapon could deliver a very devastating blow. Astaroth liked the way the hammer felt in his hand. as he swung it to feel its weight, speed, and power. He was not going to say it, but he liked the way it felt in his hand. It was beautifully simplistic in its brutality. There was something to be admired about that, really. It knew what it was for, and it did its job exceedingly well. So, it did not need to be pretty or overdressed, as one might say. Whatever happened to that hole if she dips the patient? Alastair asked, smiling at him. Astaroth swung the hammer towards Alastair's head, stopping it close to his face. Alastair quickly fell back onto his butt to avoid the hammer. "Watch it, you psycho!" Alastair shouted in shock. "Ah, very excellent craftsmanship, very well balanced. Not much time for polishing in times of war." "Oh, well, it does not need to be pretty, but still excellently well made. I would expect nothing more from Baltimore's knife and swords. It's simply beautiful," Astaroth said, swinging the hammer. "Don't ignore me." "Wait, you said knife and sword, that's a hammer." "You dumbass," Alastair said, pointing at the hammer. Astaroth slid the hammer down to the head and pointed at the logo engraved on the side of the hammer. Alastair looked at the logo. It was two crossed knives inside a gear design. He pulled out his trench knife and saw the same logo on the base of the blade. Astaroth took the hammer and a black survivalist hatchet. The hatchet was a well-made multi-tool. The head had several openings so bolts could fit in to be turned with it. It had a more modern fire axe-like head with an 8-inch back spike. The handle was wrapped in black leather for better grip. It had a pry bar at the end of the handle so this hatchet could pry things open. Astaroth put on one of the harnesses and fastened it under his shoulder sling. He quickly put on some of the armor for himself. He quickly fastened the survivalist hatchet to the left side of his leg brace. Then he fixed the hammer to the right side of his harness. At least these would come in handy down the road, he hoped. Still, he hoped that the bar owner would not dip their pay because they took some of this stuff. "That thing ain't very polished," Alastair said, looking at the hammer. "It's not made to do pretty things," Astaroth explained. "So, I guess we're as ready as we can be for pest control," Astaroth added, rolling his right shoulder, making a popping sound. "You look like a hitman for the Mafia," Alastair stated, looking over Astaroth. "No, I need a typewriter, a leopard gun, and a ball bat," Astaroth explained as he walked over to the door that led into the main basement. Rook growled softly at the door into the basement. Astaroth put his ear to the door. He could hear movement coming from the other side. Astaroth's hand loaded around in his rifle and turned the safety off. As Alastair saw Astaroth turn the safety off to his rifle, he quickly did the same. He knew that it was time to get to work. He quickly dashed to Astaroth's back. He let out a deep breath. Astaroth dropped his cigarette onto the floor and stomped it out. He looked to Alastair and nodded. They knew it was time to get to work. "Ready or not, here we come," Alastair said softly, smiling. "I hate you so much," Astaroth stated quickly as he pushed his chin side to side, popping his neck. Astaroth slowly opened the door and knelt down, pointing his rifle into the room. Inside the room, he saw nothing but access storage. Things like chairs and folding tables for events, and several simple dry-kept goods. Things that one would expect to find in a basement in a bar. Above all, the things that caught his attention was the dread rats. Those rats were nothing more than disease-ridden beasts breathing infestations, plague-bringing abominations. They were nightmarish abominations, like hell itself had rejected these disease-ridden beasts. All of them were infested with flesh-eating maggots, fleas, and ticks covered in mange. Barely a scrap of fur was on these poor sickly beasts. It was far better to put them out of their misery now than let them continue in their silent suffering. So that is what they were here to do. However, it was quite curious whatever pack or pride these beasts belonged to had rejected them and ran them off long ago. Rats do not like or accept any of their own species that are infected. So maybe these poor beasts were ejected and are now just simply trying to survive. Either way, that did not change the fact they were here now. Nor could they be allowed to live any longer than they already had. If these foul beasts were still carrying remnants of the old plague on them, they just simply could not be allowed to live anymore. The city could not go through another pandemic like it had before. Not now, not ever again. That nightmare still haunted several of the citizens and will continue to haunt them till their final days. Astaroth pulled Rook back behind him. He did not want to run the risk of his beloved brother getting in contact with these disgusting beasts. Death would be a blessing to them, freeing them from their pain. Astaroth would give them a quick and painless end. He knew that the city would collect and cremate them once they were done. The bar might be shut down for a short span of time, but if she told the city, there would be mass panic, fear of the plague returning to the city. The mass burnings, the mass evacuation of the city, and the Black Priest marching through the city, pulling the infected from their homes, and wherever they were hiding. The people just could not go through it once again. Thousands of people lost their lives. They lost their homes, they lost their souls, and they lost their very sanity. The church did what it had to do to stop the spread of the cart-leg virus. The cost was higher than they anticipated, though, both financially, spiritually, and mentally. That damn virus swept through the city like a wave of death, infecting everything it touched, both the rich and the poor, the great and the small. It did not seem to care. It just festered and grew to the point that it completely devoured over 80% of the city. It was the fear that was worse than the virus. Neighbor turning against neighbor, families torn apart since there was no physical opponent for them to face. So, they turned on each other in sheer blinding fear that drove them to the edge of insanity. Now there was still no cure, but at least the virus was kept in check. Alastair pointed his rifle over Astaroth's head. His stomach turned when he saw the rats and nearly vomited at the sight of them. He was ready for this, but he was not mentally prepared for the sight in front of him. It was like seeing something straight out of a horror movie. These beasts seemed to defy all logic as to how they could still be alive, if they even were alive. Half-eaten corpses scurrying about on all fours, desperately looking for food and drink. He wondered just how they were still alive. He wanted to know just what drove these beasts to continue onward despite their condition. He let out a deep breath, trying to calm his nerves. Above all, he had to try to calm his stomach. The last thing he wanted to do right now was to lose what little of his breakfast he had left in his stomach. However, Astaroth seemed to be completely unfazed by their grotesqueness. It was like it was all too familiar to him. This ghoulish sight barely even fazed him. He truly had nerves of steel and ice water for blood to remain as composed as he was. He was ready to do what was needed to be done. "You shoot that damn thing next to my head and I will kick you so hard in the nuts," Astaroth whispered, lining up a shot. "Right, so flank right, stay tight, got it?" Alastair whispered as he counted the dread rats in his mind. "Okay, go right, I'll cover you and don't get bit," Astaroth whispered. "I know already," Alastair whispered. Astaroth slowly opened the door, letting Alastair in. He slowly walked in and knelt down as Astaroth got ready for the shootout. As one of the rats saw them, it let out a loud hiss, alerting the others. Alastair quickly shot the rat that hissed at them right in the head. As the rats ran towards Alastair, Astaroth quickly shot the rat up front before it could get close to Alastair. "Force them to the corner, don't let them spread out," Astaroth quickly ordered as he just as quickly chambered another round as he walked towards the rats. Rook barked as he flanked left, not letting the rats separate. As he herded them back into the corner, Astaroth and Alastair opened fire on the rats, forcing them back. As a rat dashed towards Alastair, he quickly fired, but he missed. As the rat leapt at him, Alastair quickly stepped to the side. Once the rat hit the ground, Alastair put the end of the barrel against the rat's head and fired. As Alastair was distracted by the rat in front of him, he did not see another rat running towards him. Alastair did not ever notice until the sound of a wet pop sound and something heavy hitting the ground drew his attention. He looked at the dead rat that was coming towards him, lying on the floor bleeding out. He quickly looked over at Astaroth, who quickly chambered another round and shot the last rat. Astaroth quickly slapped the empty magazine out of the rifle using a fully loaded magazine. He put the fully loaded magazine into the rifle and chambered one round. Once he was done reloading his rifle, he let out a deep sigh. As he kissed his rifle, he was glad to be done with that madness. Alastair followed Astaroth's lead and reloaded his rifle. He pushed the lever down, ejecting the round still inside the chamber. He put that round back into the tube before putting in additional rounds from his pocket. Once the tube was full, he put one in the chamber and closed the lever. "Okay, so is this it?" Alastair asked, looking over all the dead rats. "Don't know, but rats in the basement is one of the oldest tropes in the book. It's like the start of every goddamn adventure story ever," Astaroth answered as he picked up his empty magazine and put it into his back pocket. "Well, it seemed the easiest thing on the job listing, and for your information, every adventure story is all about overly sexualized men and women. Either they're walking talking steroid factories, or strong women who don't need a man. They continually spit out cheesy one-liners. Every man has a sword that's clearly overcompensating for something. Every woman gets an even bigger fuck-off sword that clearly could never be used by anyone. Especially not a petite little thing that looks like they weigh 95 pounds soaking wet. And we have guns," Alastair explained clearly. Astaroth stopped and looked at Alastair in confusion. Wait, just wait a goddamn minute. Are you smart and good at acting dumb? Or are you dumb and good at acting smart?" Astaroth asked, deeply concerned at his judgment of Alastair. "What are you talking about?" Alastair asked. "Fuck it. We're done here. Where is my money?" Astaroth answered as he headed towards the stairs. Rook clawed at a door with a distillery room sign written on it and no smoking sign on the door. He could smell something behind it, he just was not sure what it was. However, it was something that was holding his attention. Unfortunately for him, his brother could not care any less at the moment. For as far as he was concerned, the job was over and done with. It was time to get paid and go home. He was done with all this. Astaroth, Rook, and Alastair stopped in a panic. When from the door to the distillery room behind them, they could hear a young girl crying out for help. Astaroth whipped around just in time to see Alastair pushing Rook out of the way. As he headed to open the door, then bolted into the room. On the other side of the door, Alastair froze as he saw not just more of the dread rats, but creatures all too familiar to him. Dirty, scarred, humanoid creatures. They stood around 6 feet tall, towering over the rats around them. Light copper-colored skin, tribal tattoos, and long jagged ears. All of them were armed and looking right at him in confusion. "Shit," Alastair stated in shock, as one of them pointed a gun at him. All Alastair could do was close his eyes and wait for the bullet. To be continued in the next episode. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. As Astaroth49, the Duke of Hell, puts out new content every single day.